What's up, guys? Brett Okamoto from ESPN alongside UFC President Dana White, who, if I'm not mistaken, is back in the war room. Have you left that thing? You just living inside the war room these days? Every time I see an interview, social media post, it seems like that's where you're at, making fights, huh, Dana?
Yeah, we've been cranking in here, getting ready for the summer.
Well, obviously, this is the first time that I've had a chance to speak to you since yesterday when Nevada made it official that you guys are approved. You're back home. You got fights coming to the Apex. I guess, just what's the feeling? And this is something that I think fight fans have been waiting for, people within the industry that, they had confidence that once you guys got to Vegas, that, you guys would be able to really roll out a pretty consistent schedule.
Yeah. It was all about, I think what we really needed was, first of all, we needed the fighters to have the confidence that we could pull these events off. Everybody said we couldn't, it wouldn't happen. We did. And everybody was safe. Now everybody's hardcore getting back to training, and, we're starting to map out the summer.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, because you're also the first person that I know of, at least personally, who has had both the nasal swab and the throat swab. Can you kind of describe to me the difference between the two and which is the preferable option?
The nasal looks worse. The throat is, I don't like the throat one. Yeah. Throat one isn't fun, but apparently that's the new thing. They were doing nose, now they're doing throat. So.
Yeah. So the throat is not as fun, but it seems like that's what we're going to be stuck with for a while.
Either is fun, but I'll take the nose over the throat.
Can you give me an idea? I know you kind of mentioned this previously, but how much more does it cost you to hold an event under these times? I mean, and now it's, at least now you're at the Apex, so your staff is there, and you're not moving things around the country. But as you mentioned, it's not easy to secure these tests and to pay for these, and I think the promoters are on the hook for that, right? So is it what is the cost of promoting an event compared to pre-COVID?
19. So I'm looking at from January 18th to March 7th. I mean, that's $20 million right there out of 2, 4, 6, 7 events. So if you look at just losing the gates, I mean, that's one of the things as professional sports starts to come back. One of the hard parts for these professional teams is losing the fans, losing the gate. So as business owners, we have to start figuring out, how to run our business. Losing gates.
Yeah.
A lot more expensive to, pull off all this testing. All the things that we're doing is costing a lot of money.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, what impact do you think that'll have on just the sport in general? I mean, you guys are in a position to do it. You've got some other promotions that, I think we would.
I don't think we're in a position to do it. We're just doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're going. We're moving. It would be much cheaper if I could sit back like everybody else and say, you know what? Let's just wait and see what happens, and let's ride this thing out. You know how much cheaper it would be to do that? A lot cheaper. But that isn't our style. That's not what we're going to do. We've solved problems. We figure these things out, and it's expensive, and it costs a lot of money. But what are you going to do? Just going to roll over and not do events anymore? No. You have to figure it out, and you're going to lose money. Period.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten so used to, talking to you on a weekly basis, and it always seems like we're looking at, hey, what's the next fight? Who's saying this? What are the matchups here? But to take a big picture kind of snapshot of this, how do you think this impacts the industry over the next 3 years? Like, when we look back at 3 years from now, what are we going to say? Well, like, how did this change the landscape of the business of mixed martial arts?
How did it change the landscape of sports and other businesses? When you have a company like Disney, right? You know how hard it is to mess up Disney? Right now, Disney's looking at no people at their theme parks, no movies being released, and no sports on ESPN. This thing is going to affect a lot of businesses that 3 months ago you thought would be impossible to hurt.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to go out of business. Some sports, this is going to affect major sports, teams, leagues. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next several years. But I'm an aggressive type of person. I think now is the time to be smart, but be very aggressive. We got to get people back to work. We got to get sports back on TV. You know, you got to get movies coming out again. All these things have to happen. But you know, you have somebody. I had this. I had this argument with a girl on ESPN a couple weeks ago, and she was saying, yeah, but it was something like 10 or 15% of the NFL's revenue is gate. You know, the NFL's revenue, not the team owners. You know what I mean? If you're the owner of the Denver Broncos or the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, the gate is everything.
Yeah,
it's a big deal. It's important. So that's going to affect a lot of the world is going to change over the next 7-8 months. And, you know, since the day this thing started, you know, I've started planning on what's next and what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. And this might be a question that you don't have a lot to say on, quite frankly. I know that this is not necessarily your problem, but I want to get your perspective on it just because of, you know, who you are to this sport and your role in it. Do you worry at all about, you know, just the next class of talent? You know, like, do you think that this is going to impact the regional scene in mixed martial arts? Do you think it's going to impact, you know, the gyms and just the quality of younger kids that we see coming into the next generation of the UFC?
Let me tell you, I was in the gym business. And I'm in the gym business now still. Let me tell you how hard it is to run a gym and keep a gym afloat.
Yeah.
Gyms are going to get annihilated because of this thing. And you're dead on with what you're saying. Yes, it's definitely going to hurt the regional. It's going to hurt up and coming talent. But I have a whole plan for that too. So I'm already working on that too.
Yeah. Well, another thing that might be hard to speculate on, but you know, you see reports about how you know, the NBA is you know, we probably aren't going to have fans until 2021. I know this is tough. A lot of things are changing on a regular basis, but you as the president of the UFC, if you had to offer your best guess as to when gates will come back, I'm sure you're trying to project that a little bit just for your business model. What do you think? When will we get fans back at UFC fights?
They could come, what, for fights or for NBA?
For you, yeah, I see an NBA has said, you know, no earlier than 2021. What is your thought process on when it might be possible?
Here's where I'm lucky. You know, if you look at what's going on state to state, country to country, you know, Las Vegas is just starting to open up and do all this stuff. But I was able to go to Florida. If you own a casino, you can't go to Florida and do business. I could go to Arizona. I can go to, you know, many different places right now. I'm very fortunate that I can move my business around. Other businesses, casinos, gyms, things like that, they don't have the ability to do that. And, you know, I'm a super aggressive person. So when a place opens up fans, I'll be there.
Huh. This year, potentially, I would think then, huh?
Probably. Somebody will.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one last thing before we get to some of the. I wanted to go through a little bit of the divisions and just kind of get an update on the state of you know, the union and all that. But it kind of, to wrap up this conversation we've been having, are you still on that task force with Trump to reopen the economy? What has that experience been like? Have you been?
It's been incredible. Yeah, it's been incredible. There's been some amazing conversations with really smart people with a lot of great ideas, and you know, it's been fun. I'm actually, you know, when you're in a position like mine, you get offered to be on a bunch of different boards and all kinds of stuff, and pretty boring. This one isn't boring. This one's pretty cool and pretty fun and exciting. Yeah,
I mean, I would imagine this is going to be a memorable experience that you were part of that during this time in just our human history. You know, I'm as obsessed with Fight Island as anybody, perhaps even more obsessed, but I know that you're getting questions left and right on this. One thing that you've mentioned that I do want to ask you a little bit more on, you're going to live on this thing for the month of July. You're actually going to live on Fight Island. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'll be there for a month for the fights. If we end up pulling off the fights that we're working on right now, we're going to do 3 or 4 fights in a month on Fight Island, and I'll stay there for the first 3 or 4. And then once the thing is up and running and smooth and cranking, I will go home.
Huh. So the part of the building the infrastructure of Fight Island is what? The Dana White Cabana, the hotel? I mean, where are you going to be staying on this private island in Fight Island?
Well, for us to be able to pull off what we need, I need facilities for fighters, for training, food, fighting, sleeping, all these things. And yeah, the Dana White Cabana too. Yes.
Have you been there yet, or have you just been getting photo updates?
No, I haven't been there.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully sometime in
I've only been to Florida since this pandemic started. The only place I've traveled to is Florida. I've been home in the office and at my house. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to some of the divisions, and I know that in the past it's like I'm not making fights on fight night and this and that, but I haven't had a chance to talk to you for a while, and there's a lot of different questions about sort of the state of the different divisions. So I wanted to ask you. We'll start with the UFC strawweight division. Zhang Weili. I mean, she came out and actually said this morning that her preferred option would be Rose Namajunas. Where are you at with Zhang?
She said she would prefer Rose Namajunas?
That's what she said, yes.
Yeah. Rose is set to fight Jessica Andrade. So, the winner of that fight will probably fight Weili Zhang. So, we'll see what happens.
Okay. You got a date for that one, for Rose and Jessica yet?
We're working on it. I just need to know. I need to know that Rose is mentally ready. If you're really nervous about this coronavirus and, even remotely nervous about the setup, the plan, anything to do with it, when you go into a fight, you have to be crystal clear and focused and ready to fight. And I've told all the fighters, if you're even remotely nervous about this coronavirus thing, then you shouldn't be fighting right now. There's plenty of time. We got plenty of time. We're going to be putting on plenty of fights this year. You got time to fight.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens with Rose.
Speaking of the number of fights, I did want to ask you earlier. You just pretty set on Saturday, or could we see another week like we saw in Jacksonville where you have multiple cards?
No, we're after we do these two in Vegas, we're back on schedule. We're back in Vegas. We got this week and we got next week, and we're back. Yeah. Our schedule is right back on.
But always Saturdays though, like the Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't have to do them during. Listen, if ESPN comes to me and says, "I want you to do fights Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday," I'll do it. But as of right now, we're back on schedule for Saturdays.
Okay. Strawweight. How about Valentina?
I got this going on right now. We're back on schedule for the fights. We got the Contender Series coming up this summer. We're relaunching the Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter's coming back. So we're doing all this stuff this summer.
100%. You're relaunching the Ultimate Fighter.
100%. All the plans, everything's in motion right now.
Wow. Is that going to be on ESPN or will that be on Fight Pass?
Fight Pass.
Wow. Will you have coaches? Will it be like traditional style like we're used to? You're having coaches bringing them in, all that?
Yeah. There'll be some. It'll be different. It'll be some change ups on it, but yeah, it'll be the same style. Have you seen Fight Lore yet?
Fight Lore?
Yeah.
Just the clips you posted on social media so far.
Listen to me. Listen to what I'm telling you right now. You need to go on UFC Fight Pass and watch the first 2 episodes of Fight Lore. The new one that's coming out is Kimbo Slice. That one's awesome too. This is such a good show. It's very good.
For those that don't know, it's like an artistic take on some of the historical stories in fight history, right?
Well, what it is it's things that have happened behind the scenes, in the UFC or around the UFC that there's obviously not film footage of. So it's done in real interviews and real clips and animation. Yeah, I think it's one of the best shows we've ever produced. And the first one is the Joe Riggs Nick Diaz fight that happened in the hospital. And then the second one is on the Buffer brothers. And both of them are incredible. They're really good shows. You should check them out. And I didn't mean to shamelessly plug that. I was just curious when you were asking me that if you
had not
seen Fight Lore yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen the clips, and the Nick Diaz Joe Riggs story is like one of those infamous stories that everybody's kind of heard, but has wondered, is it true? How much of it is true? This and that. So
And what's
It makes sense
incredible
that
about
would
it
have been
too
the
is,
first episode.
you know how there's two sides to every story and the truth lays somewhere in the middle?
Right.
On both of these stories, whether it's the Buffer brothers or the Diaz Riggs, all the stories are aligned. They're all exactly the same in the way that it went down and happened. It's pretty cool.
Huh. All right, well, getting back to the division breakdown, Shevchenko-Calderwood, that was the fight that you had originally scheduled for June. Is that still the fight you're going to put together, the next title fight at 125 pounds?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're talking about the Jan fight?
No. Valentina Shevchenko and Joanne Calderwood.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the fight that makes sense.
Yeah, and they both are here in Vegas. So you think we'll do that fight in Vegas, or would that be a Fight Island fight?
No, they're both here, right?
Yeah.
Shevchenko's here. Yeah, I'd be here.
Yeah. How about heavyweight? I mean, I know that you have expressed that. Well, first off, let's start with Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. What is the update there? I mean, I know you guys have been targeting that fight for August. Is there an update on that trilogy fight?
Oh, that should happen. Yeah, that's the fight we're working on.
In August.
I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
For me to pick, even the Peter Yan Jose Aldo fight, I don't know when that's going to be yet either. But that's
okay.
The fight.
Well, in the meantime, you have come out and said, don't believe what's written on Twitter. Sometimes these guys say they want to fight each other. They really don't behind the scenes. Jon Jones came out and he said it was about money. And Jon Jones has said this before. He's like, if I go up to heavyweight, I want a bunch more money. And they told me, this is his words on Twitter. He said, UFC told me they're not going to pay me anymore to go up to heavyweight. What is your thoughts on Jon moving up to heavyweight and his real interest in fighting?
Listen, it's one thing if you come out and say, yeah, listen, I want a little more money. The amount of money that Jon Jones wanted doesn't. First of all, you have in the light heavyweight division, the Dominic Reyes fight is a fight that makes sense. So is Jon Jones going to go in and fight Francis Ngannou that then try to take a run at the heavyweight title? I don't believe that. He's never wanted to move to heavyweight before. And for the amount of money he's asking for, it's not going to happen. I mean, you couldn't be asking for a more absurd amount of money at a worse time.
Okay. So is Dominic Reyes still the first option for him then, I would imagine?
Huh?
Dominic Reyes is
he's got guys lined up at light heavyweight, whether it's Jan Blachowicz or Dominic Reyes. Yeah,
I mean, to me, it's always felt like you got the most dominant champion in UFC history. Some people thought he lost to Dominic Reyes, so that to me is a fight that probably should happen again.
Listen, the most amazing thing about Jon Jones, and listen, there's no debate. Jon Jones is the GOAT. Jon Jones is the greatest to ever do it. There's no debate about it. If you look at what the guy has accomplished and what he was doing while he accomplished these things, you know what I mean? It's not like the guy was being good to himself and training hardcore. And what's even crazier about the Jon Jones story is you think of like this. Look at what he's accomplished. But what's even crazier, imagine what he could have accomplished had he been doing the right thing the whole time, what Jon Jones could have been. And I'm saying that, and he's never lost a fight.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, well, people think that he beat him. People think that he beat him. He didn't beat him. The three people that matter said he didn't.
Yeah.
And you can hate our judging all the time. I bitch about our judging. It happens, and it's going to happen. It's never going to be perfect. But the three people that sit ringside all agree that Jon Jones has never lost a fight. So they're the only three that matter.
True. Can't argue that. Middleweight, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. We got a time frame on that one yet?
What did you say?
Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Felt like we were seeing Israel fight every 2 months. When are we going to see them fight again?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen. This is all stuff that we're working on for this summer.
And Robert Whittaker, Darren Till, is that still a fight you want to keep together and put on a card at some point? The reception to that fight when it was going to headline a card in August was really, really positive. I would imagine that's still the one you want to make, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Tell me what's going on at welterweight, I mean, it seemed like Jorge Usman, that was going to be an obvious one. Now Jorge's saying Usman's asking for too much money. Usman is saying that he's said over the last 4 months that he was ready to fight the entire time. And now they're kind of saying that they may not fight each other. What is going on at welterweight?
Drama. Always. I mean, listen, there's nothing but drama with all these guys. Everybody on the roster is calling out Conor McGregor. You know, it's just, we got to get out of quarantine, man. People are losing their minds. And this will all be laid out soon, and we'll have some fights for these guys. You know, it's a lot of drama and a lot of social media BS is what's going on right now. So
yeah,
I think everybody's just getting antsy. Everybody's getting tired of being locked down. You know, you're sitting at home. You got nothing to do. You can't go train. Can't go hang out with your friends. You can't go to dinner. You can't do all these things. So what do? You sit on this stupid thing for hours saying stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. It makes no sense. So we are back. We are in the war room every day, and we're getting this stuff figured out. We're getting dates. We finally got Vegas locked down. We need to get these 2 fights this Saturday and the 6th under our belt. Get Nevada comfortable that we can pull this thing off safely and put on fights, and we'll start making the big fights and making the announcements for this summer.
Yeah. Well, I
don't care what these guys are saying. Everybody wants to hit me up every day and say, "Oh my God, did you see what he said about him? Oh my God, look what he said about him." And I don't care what any of them are saying to any of them.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care who called out who or who thinks who or who wants to move to heavyweight or who doesn't want this or who wants more money. We're going to get all this stuff figured out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll start making fights. And guys that don't want to fight, I will reiterate, don't have to fight. If people are nervous or don't like what's going on or don't like this, you don't have to fight. Nobody's begging anybody to fight right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just throw away my list of other fighters to ask you about, but I do have to ask you about one more, and that's Conor. And he's been one of those guys who has been a little bit antsy. It seems like he's been talking a lot on social media. You had mentioned that he might want to come back in July, and I'm looking around, and who's he going to fight? You know, Nate Diaz is someone that a lot of people are saying, oh, that would be the one that makes sense. You know, maybe Jorge Masvidal will be the one that makes sense. You have said that Justin Gaethje and Khabib Nurmagomedov are going to fight next, so that's not an option. You also said that he's not going to fight Kamaru Usman. So what is going on with Conor? Do you think we'll see him this summer? And which fights would he even be? What opponents would you even consider for him?
So Conor and I have not talked about fighting. I know that Conor's going back. If you're Conor and you're sitting home, I mean, everybody's calling you out in every weight division. I'm waiting, you know, who's next? I'm waiting for a friggin', you know,
Volkanovski, Henry Cejudo, you know, all those guys, I'm sure.
Cormier. I mean, who's going to call him out next? It's crazy.
Anderson Silva called him out this morning.
Right. And you know Conor and his personality, he's going to respond to you. Conor and I have not talked about a fight. I think what Conor needs to do, sit back, let a lot of these fights start rolling, and obviously the most important division, the 55-pound division, and see what plays out for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, last thing for you. A lot of people have noticed that Mike Tyson is in tremendous shape, and I know that he's a friend of yours. And there's even been some kind of rumors floating around that you know, he's been getting offers to fight again. I'm just wondering if you've talked to Mike Tyson. Can you give us any insight into what is going on here with Mike Tyson? Why is Mike Tyson looking like the best shape of his life at age 53?
I have, and you know, originally I came out and said, listen, I'd like Mike not to fight. I even got Mike a TV show that he's going to do, trying to keep him from fighting. But Mike Tyson is a grown man, and he can do whatever. You know, is that a dog?
That is my crazy ass dog. Yeah, I'm sure my wife is throwing him outside at the moment. Give her a second. She's usually good about it. Give her 2 seconds.
Yes, I have talked to Mike Tyson, and you know, I got him a TV show that he's going to do. Because I was trying to do everything to get him to not fight. He's a grown man, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And, you know, I said it when he came out. The guy is powerful. He looks explosive. He's gotten himself in great shape, and he wants to fight. So from what I'm hearing from them, they have something lined up, something big. And he's going to get in there. And he said, you know, we talked about it, and he said, listen, I feel that fire in my stomach, you know, I want to get in there and I want to mix it up again. You know, Like I said, these people, he's a grown man. And Tyson hits hard. He's still explosive, and he's got the fire again, man. He wants to do it. So I'm fully supportive of him.
Did you ever see Mike Tyson fight live?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I was the biggest Tyson fan ever, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still am.
Like
I'll be at this one, too.
Would you go?
Oh, I'll absolutely go. I don't care if there's no crowds allowed. I'm figuring out how to get into that one.
Work his corner or something.
Yeah. He don't need me in the corner. I'm sure he can come up with better cornermen than me, but I'll get my way into the building for that one.
All right, one last thing to wrap it up. Your most vivid Mike Tyson memory, the one that sticks out the most of being at a fight of his life.
God, I would have to say, so me and Lorenzo went to the fight when he came back. The first time that he walked out to DMX. Mm-hmm. Boom, boom, boom. And I remember me and Lorenzo were there. We just looked at each other and went, oh, this is great. Just the energy and the excitement and the buzz of being at a Mike Tyson fight. You were in your seats. You weren't even fighting and you were scared. You just had this feeling of, this anxious energy. It was so awesome. The Mike Tyson era was one of the most incredible eras in combat sports, man. It will never be duplicated. And to have lived in it was so much fun. I loved it.
I bet. I can only imagine. Well, hey, man, you're a busy guy. Thank you very much for the time. And we will see you soon here in Vegas. You're going to be ramping up. You're going to be busy in Vegas. So I will see you in person soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Dana. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.